Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. We are back. Continuing with our look at the triennial Torah portion. Today's Torah portion is Exodus chapters 1 and 2. Exodus 1 and 2. And this portion is Shemot. Okay. All right, we're going to go ahead and just get right into it without any more delay. I'm going to go ahead and go. Let's see. Let's just read through the first. Let's just read through the chapters, and then we'll go back and talk about everything after we go through. So let me go ahead and pull up for us here. Exodus, Shemot, chapter 1. We'll go ahead and read chapter 1 and 2. Nice and loud here.
All right. And these are the names of the children of Israel who came to Mitzrayim with Jacob, each one with his household: Reuben, Shimon, Levi, and Yehuda; Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin; Dan and Naphtali; Gad and Asher. And all those were descendants of Jacob, were 70 beings, as Joseph was already in Mitzrayim. And Joseph died, and all his brothers, and all of that generation. And the children of Israel were fruitful, and increased very much, multiplied and became very strong, and the land was filled with them. Then a new sovereign arose over Mitzrayim, who did not know Joseph. And he said to his people, "See, the people of the children of Israel are more and stronger than we. Come, let us act wisely towards them, lest they increase. And it shall be, when fighting befalls us, that they shall join our enemies and fight against us, and shall go up out of the land." So they set slave masters over them, to afflict them with their burdens. And they built for Pharaoh supply cities, Pithom and Ramses. But the more they afflicted them, the more they increased and grew. And they were in dread of the children of Israel. And the Mitzrites made the children of Israel serve with harshness, and they made their lives bitter with hard bondage in mortar and in brick, and in all kinds of work in the field. All their work which they made them do was with harshness. Then the sovereign of Mitzrayim spoke to the Hebrew midwives, of whom the name of one was Shiphrah, and the name of the other Puah. And he said, "With you deliver the Hebrew women, and seat them on the birth stools. If it is a son, then you shall put him to death. But if it is a daughter, then she shall live." But the midwives feared Elohim, and did not do as the sovereign of Mitzrayim commanded them, and he kept the male children alive. So the sovereign of Mitzrayim called for the midwives and said to them, "Why have you done this, and kept the male children alive?" And the midwives said to Pharaoh, "Because the Hebrew women are not like the Mitzrayim women, for they are lively, and give birth before the midwives come to them." So Elohim was good to the midwives, and the people increased and became very numerous. And it came to be, because the midwives feared Elohim, that he provided households for them. And Pharaoh commanded all his people, saying, "Throw every son who was born into the river, and keep alive every daughter." Then Exodus 2 here. All right, Exodus 2. And it says, "And a man of the house of Levi went and married a daughter of Levi. And the woman conceived and bore a son. And she saw that he was a lovely child, and she hid him 3 months. And when she could hide him no longer, she took an ark of wicker for him, and coated it with tar and pitch, and put the child in it, and laid it in the reeds by the edge of the river. And his sister stood at a distance to know what would be done to him. And the daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself at the river. And her young women were walking by the riverside. And when she saw the ark among the reeds, she sent her female servants to get it, and opened it, and saw the child, and see the baby wept. So she had compassion on him, and said, This is one of the children of the Hebrews. And his sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, Shall I go and call a nurse for you from the Hebrew woman to nurse the child for you? And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, Go. And the young woman went and called the child's mother. And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, Take this child away and nurse him for me. Then I shall pay your wages. So the woman took the child and nursed him. And the child grew. And she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And she called his name Moshe, because I have drawn him out of the water. And in those days it came to be, when Moshe was grown, that he went out to his brothers and looked at their burdens. And he saw a Mitzrayim striking a Hebrew, one of his brothers. So he turned this way and that way. And when he saw no one, he struck the Mitzrayim and hid him in the sand. And he went out the second day and saw 2 Hebrew men fighting. And he said to the one who did the wrong, Why do you strike your neighbor? And he said, Who made you a head and a judge over us? Do you intend to kill me as you killed the Mitzrayim? And Moshe feared and said, Truly, the matter is known. And Pharaoh heard of this matter, and he sought to kill Moshe. But Moshe fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian. And he sat down by a well, and a priest of Midian had 7 daughters. And they came and drew water, and they filled the troughs to water their flocks, their father's flock. But the shepherds came and drove them away. Then Moshe stood up and came to their rescue and watered their flock. And they came to Reuel, their father, and he said, How is it that you have come so soon today? And they said, A Mitzrayim rescued us from the hand of the shepherds, and he also drew enough water for us and watered the flock. And he said to his daughters, And where is he? Why did you leave the man? Call him and let him eat bread. And Moshe agreed to dwell with the man, and he gave Zipporah his daughter to Moshe, and she bore him a son, and he called his name Gershom. For he said, I have become a sojourner in a foreign land. And it came to be, after these many days, that the sovereign of Mitzrayim died. Mitzrayim died. And the children of Israel groaned because of the slavery, and they cried out, and their cry came up to Elohim. Excuse me. And their cry came up to Elohim because of the slavery. And Elohim heard their groaning, and Elohim remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Yitzhak, and with Jacob. And Elohim looked on the children of Israel, and Elohim knew.
Okay, all right, very good. Very good. Okay, so let's go back over here to the first chapter here. And let's see here. Let's go back here because we're looking here at Shemot. Shemot, which is names. Right? These are the names of the children of Israel. Right? The names. It's interesting. In multiple places earlier in the Torah, we see here these are the generations, right? These are the generations, Toldot, right? But here we see these are the names. Let's look at this here. Names. Oh, sorry, wait, I want to look at. All right, let's see here. All right, let's go over here and look at this word here, which is translated as names. Here it is Shem, Shem, pluralized, of course, is names, Shemot, which means here, let's see here, rather than through the idea definition of an appellation, a mark or memorial. And the way that we're using it here is a mark or memorial of the thing that an individual is called, right? It also has the idea of honor, authority, character, right? And so we think about the fact that, let me just. But we think about the way people are named with honor being connected with a name, and people wanting to maintain a particular, maintain honor with that name. And authority can be connected with a name and character, right? And so when we think about a particular name, there's these different things, these different connotations that are connected with a particular name. And so here we're looking at these names of the children of Israel. And so we're thinking about not only the names of each individual person, but it's really dealing with the character, the honor, the character qualities that are associated with the entire group with Israel, right? Is giving you the character of the nation, right? Because of these people, these names, these individual, Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, there's none of these people go in, right? It says all of these were the descendants of Jacob. They had all died, right? And Joseph, all of them were all dead. So these people weren't there. This is, they were in Egypt. They made it to Egypt, but in this part of the narrative, they've all passed, right? They've all passed away. And so it's not dealing with them, it's dealing with their descendants, right? And so it's interesting when we think about this idea of these are the names of the children. It's giving you the names of the children, but it's really getting ready to describe for you the what we'll begin to understand as the nation of Israel, right? Okay, so let's go down to verse 7.
So,
Because we see something interesting here when we look at verse 7. Read again for us here in verse 7.
it says, and the children of Israel were fruitful and increased very much, multiplied and became very strong, and the land was filled with them.
Okay, very good. So when we look at, there's an interesting parallel to notice here when we think about Exodus chapter 1, Shemot chapter 1 and verse 7, and Genesis chapter 1 and 28. Let's go back here. Let's look at Genesis 1, 28. Read this verse here, verse 28.
28 says, and Elohim blessed them, and Elohim said to them, be fruitful and increase, and fill the earth, and subdue it, and rule over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over all creeping creatures on the earth.
Okay, so when we look at Genesis 1 and 28, we see the creation of man, the creation of mankind, and the blessing that the Most High gives to Adam, right? Where he says to him, be fruitful and increase and fill the earth. And then he also gives him a purpose. He gives him something to do. Subdue it, the earth. Rule over the things in the earth, right? But I want to focus on this this other part, the idea of being fruitful and increasing and filling the earth. Because when we look over at Exodus chapter 1, we see the same kind of a thing over here in verse chapter Exodus 1 and 7, right? Where it says, Israel, they were fruitful, and they multiplied, and they filled the land. But they also increased very much. They became very strong, in addition to the other things. And so we see at the creation of mankind, the Most High said to be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. And that was the beginning of mankind. What we're looking at here is the kind of the establishing of Israel, of Israel's name and character, the qualities that are connected with Israel as a nation. Israel's becoming a nation. They're becoming a people. It's a type of creation story. Right? Just like what we see over in Bereshit. Right? But there's more. It's almost as if this is a greater creation story. There's more things, right? Over there, and the other thing, there was these three things, right? They was going to be fruitful and multiply and fill the land. But over here, it says that the people was fruitful, they increased very much, multiplied, they became very strong, and filled the land. Right? So it's almost like when we look at this thing, it's like they, again, when we think about the parallels between the two, it's almost as if we see this other creation story that's going on when we're talking about the nation of the Most High's chosen people. let's look at some of these things over here. Let's look at, let's see here. First of all, he says to the children, he says that, and the difference is that over there, over in Genesis, this is what the Most High said over the created, saying what he expected for them to do. In other words, go out and be fruitful. Right? Go ahead and multiply yourself. Right? Go ahead and fill the land. Mm-hmm. Right? He's saying what he wants for Adam to be doing. Mm-hmm. But over here, this is what's happening. This is what they're actually participating in. Yeah. Being fruitful and multiplying and increasing very much and becoming very strong and filling the actual land. Right? And so let's look at some of these things over here, right? Let's look at fruitful. Parah. Right? Parah. We say this word all the time. Right? To bear fruit. Mm-hmm. To bring forth fruit. Mm-hmm. Right? Parah. Fruitful, grow, increase. Right? So when we think about fruit, because it is this thing that kind of comes forth. It's the product of a thing that's planted, right? And so when we think about the fact that here, talking about the children of Israel, they were fruitful, right? They bore fruit. They grew. Can we think about the fact? Can we think about the fact that when we look at verse 7, is every single one of these things having to do with the fact that they kept on like growing physically? Like, it's every single one of these 5 things that it has to say about Israel all have to do with the fact that they kept on being more Israelites. Because it could have just said that they just was kept on being a whole bunch of them. It could have just said that, and the children of Israel filled the land. The land was filled with them. Mm-hmm. It could have just said that. Or it could have said that it was the land was filled with them, just to say that it was really filled with them. Mm-hmm. But it said they were fruitful. Yes. They increased very much. They multiplied, yes, and became very strong, and the land was filled with them.
Mm-hmm. There was a lot of.
Is that just saying that there just was a whole bunch of them, or what?
I think it's making a reinforcement of how many of them, how they increased, and then how many of them there were.
Say that again?
Like, it's reinforcing the increase of them and how many of them there are.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You're right. And I just saw something. I just want to say that. I just saw something talking about people, and they're talking with others. The difference between saying but and. Right? I could say, you're right, but that would kind of diminish everything that the person says if you say, you're right, but. Mm-hmm. I don't want to say that. I want to say, you're right, and. Another thing to think about is the fact that when we look at this word fruitful, parah, it can, because of the fact of it having the idea of abundant fruit, and bringing forth fruit, you can think about the idea of healthiness with the tree in order for the fruit to even be manifest. Right? I got grapevines. You know, anybody who ever listened to me talk about grapevines knows that I have grapevines.
Yeah.
But for the last few years they've been disease ridden. So they're there, they exist, but they're not fruitful. Right? Because they're not healthy. Right? And so when we think about the idea of fruitful, this word para, when it says that it brought forth fruit, it implies that the tree is healthy. Just because you have a lot of something doesn't mean that it's good all of the time.
That's right.
Right? If you got a lot of roaches, right, you got a problem.
You got infestation.
Right? So just for the simple fact that there's a lot of this thing is not necessarily good.
Positive.
Right. And so when we think about the idea again of this para here, it can give us the idea of healthiness, right? As kind of this prerequisite to the fruitfulness, right? The fruitfulness is what we're saying, but how did we even get to the fruitfulness, right? There's a healthiness to the situation, right? What else? What else we got here? And increasingly abundant. They was para, and they was increasingly abundant. Here, let's look at this here. This word here is sharats. 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 To wriggle. That is to swarm or abound. Right? They increased like fishes. What does this say over here? What's this? Let's look at this here. If we go back here. Verse 20. What's our word here? Oh, that's it right there. Look, read verse 20.
It says, and Elohim said, let the waters teem with shoals of living beings, and let birds fly above the earth on the face of the expanse of the heavens.
Okay, it says, let the waters bring forth abundantly the living creature that have life. The waters, that's fishes. Right? But this word that's translated here as abundantly is talking about these things that are going to be bringing forth in the waters. Fishes. Like a whole bunch of them, right? All over the place. Fishes, you know, human beings, they got babies and they just be one baby be coming out. But fishes, they be having like a whole bunch of little babies coming out all at the same time, right? It's interesting when you think about this word over here, this word that we're looking at here, sharats, this wriggle. It can have the idea of here. Let's look at this in the right here. By implication, swarm. Right, a swarm. That's like a big old bunch of, like if you got a swarm of bees, like it's just a whole bunch of them, right? But a way to think about this word swarm here is to breed multitudes. To breed multitudes. And so when you look at some of the things that people talk about when we think about these people over here in Israel, not Israel, but the nation of Israel at this particular time, and them being abundant, is the fact that perhaps these people, and many of the ancients talk about the fact that perhaps these people were bringing about not only twins, but like 3 and 4 and 5 babies at once. They were growing at an exponential rate. These people was. For whatever reason, they was extremely fertile, and potentially they was having multiple babies all at once. They were swarming, right? They were sharatzing, abounding, right? All over the place, increasing like fishes. Like we see again this word here, sharatz, being used to describe their increase. All right, let's go back over here. Because again, why is inspiration decide to give us all of this when it could have just said there was a whole bunch of them, right? They just kept on having babies. I don't know. They could have just said one thing, but they're reiterating these things, and they're probably not trying to give you the same idea, but different aspects, more specifics of a particular idea, right? So they was fruitful. They increased very much, and they multiplied. They rabah, right, to increase in whatever respect. So again, this could be more than just the fact that there was a bunch of people. Like they could have been like increasing in things. They could have been increasing in, because they were shepherd people. They could have been increasing in animals. We read about was it Jacob who had the secrets to the animals and was able to I don't know why I would call it the secrets. He had the secrets in the animals, and he was able to multiply these animals.
Yeah, he did have secret things.
He was like a breeder.
Yeah, he was. That's the truth, though.
And so he was able to increase in abundance in this occupation that he had. This sheep herder. This person that was dealing with the animals, right? And so again, we think about the fact that they were rabbaing. It could be dealing with the fact that they were increasing in terms of there kept on being more of them. But they could, but this word means to increase in whatever respect. And so it could actually mean that they were increasing in other things other than just dealing with themselves. Right? They could have been increasing in foodstuffs and cattle and all of those things. Right? It could have been this all-inclusive kind of thing. All right? And so, also, besides all of that, And also they waxed exceedingly mighty. They waxed exceeding mighty. Ma'od, they had to put that in here 2 times. Ma'od. Very, very vehement. We need to start a petition.
So I can see. I mean, the way you bringing this out, I can see why Egypt was like, you know what? These people was getting too powerful.
Yeah, because what was they doing? Was it just a bunch of them?
It was more than that. I mean,
Was it just because it was just a bunch of them, or what?
I mean, like, if you have 1 ant in the house, or 2 or 3 or 5 ants, that's not a problem.
Yeah.
But we start getting infested by ants, you're gonna call the exterminator, because it's like, what is really going on here? Where are they coming from? How are they coming here?
Yeah.
I mean, it just seems like there was just so many of them, and they was just fruitful.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they were. This is interesting here. This was an interesting one here because again we see this ma'od over here, which is like very, right? Very, very. Ma'od. But this is the word over here, atzam. Right? To bind fast. Right? That is close the eyes. Listen, if I'm like straining, you know, some people go through the day and they don't strain and they don't their whole day is just relaxed and all of this thing. But I feel like I threw my neck out straining before.
Wow.
Because I'm really like straining like. And like your neck is like, you can't see because my beard's in the way, but your neck is like tensed up. But your eyes sometimes when you're straining, it's like they squint. Right? Because you're straining. Right? But you're exerting, like there's exertion involved in that, right? But this is what it's talking about. Is this word over here. I had to put the thing up there. But this word over here, ma'od, where's my cursor here? Atzam is to bind fast. You're holding this thing so tight that your eyes is squinting up. Right? You're using all of your strength. Right? And so, and powerful and numerous. Right? Look, to crunch the bones, to break you're breaking bones. You're like, you just here. I gotta put the thing over there so you can see what's going on. Like you're sitting there and you're taking this thing and you just bent and broke this thing, right? But they were becoming mighty. They were flexing their situation and they was bending things and breaking it. Right? How did they know that they was so strong and mighty? They wasn't just looking at them and saying, "Oh, they're." Matter of fact, this is not a perception of them. This is not Pharaoh's perception here in verse 7. This is what they was. They was this. Right? This is not nobody looking at them and being like, "Oh my goodness, there's so much mysteriousness to them. I can't. They must be powerful." No. This is the Most High saying what they are. Right? And they were it says that they became very strong. Ma'od. What's our word again here? Atzam, right, where they was just able to bind stuff up, right, with their great strength, right? And so it's interesting when we look at this thing again. It's not only talking about the quantity, right? It speaks to the quality, right? And it's also giving you, the fact that there was a bunch of them. They was healthy. They was abundant. They were strong. And they filled the land. Right? And so all of this is just a matter of facts. Right? This is what they was. Right? This is the way that the Most High was dealing with these people in every area. They were advancing, right? They were strong. There was a bunch of them. They increased. They was fruitful. They filled the land. And so by the time we get down to verse 8, we see that when it said here, read verse 8 again.
Then a new sovereign arose over Mizraim who did not know Joseph. And he said to his people, see, the people of the children of Israel are more and stronger than we.
Okay, very good. So we look over here, we see now there's a new Pharaoh. There's a new king, and it says that this new king, he didn't know Joseph. So when we look at some of these commentators, they say that this is about 60 years after the death of Joseph. And so this kind of revolution had taken place. Right? And the old dynasty had been overthrown.
Okay.
Right? And there was kind of a joining together of the upper and lower portions of Egypt. And so it was a new regime that came about. They didn't really know about Joseph. Right? Because if you think, even if you had a new king, right? Typically, a king is somebody who kind of, he probably comes up the ranks, or he's it's in the family, as to where he
there's a continuity.
yeah, there's a that's a great word. There's a continuity, right? He's a new king, but he knows about the old king. He knows about the layout of the land. He knows about the people that was there.
That's one of the benefits of having a hereditary line of succession, is that the next person coming in should be aware, at least, of history.
They know what worked. They know what don't work.
Yeah, they know the people.
They
know
should
the culture,
and the people know them, right? And so when we think about here, when we look at this kind of the changing of the guard over here, we're able to understand that when this new king arose, he was disconnected. He was disconnected from all of those former things. Because Joseph, being who he was, you would think that, he is kind of renowned.
He's famous.
He's got to be famous for all the things that he did over the years, right? He saved the world, basically,
Yes, he did.
right? And so when we think about this new regime coming about, talking about him not knowing Joseph, we could think about the fact that he didn't know who he was, and the fact that he didn't acknowledge or consider him or his people.
Yeah. The deal was off.
the deal was off.
That was a deal that was made with the former.
He didn't have nothing to do with those people,
Yeah.
right? Because when you think about you know, these royals, right? They don't really care nothing about like the lowly people, these, you know, because Israel as a people at this time, you know, they're commoners, right? They're about this cattle, right? They're about this farm, right? They're not politicians and dealing with all of the all of the things, right? They're about the people. They got people problems. They're regular people, and so how is it that any type of special treatment should be going to these people? They're just cogs in the wheel, right? And so he's not thinking about those people, and they're foreigners.
They're not even part of this.
They're foreigners. Look at these little people that's coming around here. I don't mess with them. And so we're able to see where, you know, this new king, he don't acknowledge Israel, you know, as a people. And so this is kind of the beginning of how the issues really start. Hold on one second here. Let's see here. Let's go over here. Let's put this back up here. I don't know why I keep on kicking my stuff off here. We're gonna keep on going. All right, so let's go down to. That was just. Hold on. I'm having some technical issues here. All right. Let's go down to verse 10.
From 8.
Well, you read 8 and 9. Read 9 and 10.
It says, and he said to his people, see, the people of the children of Israel are more and stronger than we. Come, let us act wisely towards them, lest they increase, and it shall be when fighting befalls us, that they shall join our enemies and fight against us, and shall go up out of the land.
Okay, this is interesting because, again, we're thinking about the fact that this new regime, they don't know Israel, right? So there is an ignorance that is there, right? And so they don't know, right? But why is this the conclusion that they come up with? Right? Why is it the fact that these people that are over there, they're doing their thing, they're not warriors, they're farms people. Right? And there's no, at this time, well, you would think there's no reason for them to, why wouldn't they think, well, if people tried to come in, why wouldn't they think that we, Israel, would be allied with enemies? Like, why wouldn't they think people are going to come up and try to mess with us? And we got the secret weapon. We got Israel over here, these great and mighty people. Why is the conclusion that people are going to come and then Israel is going to side with them and try to overtake us. Why is that? Why is that the thought process?
I mean, the proper thing would be, let me try to make them my ally, so that I could be strengthened just like they are.
I know, but why? I mean, if I got to make you my ally, you're not already.
Well, I guess they wasn't friends with them.
It seems like that's a part that it don't really give us right there. I feel like there's the unspoken part that I'm already not dealing with you right, and then once I see that you start to increase, I increase in what I'm already doing to you, which is because if we're neutral or on good terms with each other, if we're neutral on good terms with each other, and let's face it, they live in Egypt, right? So if they live in Egypt, we're neutral or on good terms with each other. When people try to invade, this is where I'm at. This is my home. Right? And so I'm not going to side with them. I'm going to be on your side if I'm neutral or on good terms with you. But if I'm on bad terms, you're treating me badly, you're not making it be a situation where I feel comfortable or feel like I'm part of your situation. Now it makes more sense to think about the fact that if somebody trying to come in, then I'm gonna flip on you because we won't get along. Like if we already don't get along and then somebody try to come in, then it's just gonna, wherever I'm at, it's just going to increase. And so there could be that. Or it could just be the idea of this fear and envy being associated with something that you don't really know anything about. I think about like how, some kids are when it comes to like flying insects. Right? If a bee can sting you, right? And a bee can cause you some harm, and if it stings you, right? But I know some kids that if something flies, it's like dangerous to them. Right, because there's a type of ignorance that's connected with this flying thing. It could bite me, right? It could sting me, this flying thing, right? So there's a fear that's associated with this unknown thing, right? You probably put a little water. Right, there's a fear with this unknown thing, right? And so because I'm fearful of it, it might cause me to be violent towards it, right? But the same thing could be true when you're talking about individuals, right? If there's an ignorance that's involved, and my fear could go from being, just this thing where I don't know what you might do to me now trying to do some preemptive. I don't know why I'm thinking about insects, but if I see a nest of like hornets or something, I got the spray and I'm going to kill the whole everything, right? Just because of the potential of these things stinging me, right? But if you don't really mess with them, they don't mess with you, really.
That's funny.
Like that's the reality The situation is if you don't mess with them, they won't mess with you. But fear and ignorance causes me to I'm just gonna wipe the whole thing out, right? Because there's this unknown situation, and so these people, Egypt, they created this problem in their minds, right? Which only potentially existed. It only potentially existed in their own minds. And then they went and then they decided to do these things to prevent the potential from becoming manifest. He said, "Come, let us act wisely towards them." Well, we don't see about the acting wisely part until it talks about later as them keep on growing, and then they wanted to start killing them. But what was they doing up until that time happened? Right? It says over here in read verse 11.
11 says, so they set slave masters over them to afflict them with their burdens, and they built for Pharaoh supply cities, Pithom and Ramses.
I feel like this is like a huge synopsis of a collection of things that happened that we don't know about. Because how do you got just some people, and they're just a regular people, they're just regular citizens of the nation, and you go from just being regular citizens to being slaves? Just a switch happen? They just say, okay, from now on, it's going to be this. Or was there like a collection of systematic things that took place in order to bring the people to this place of servitude? I mean, because it says that they acted wisely towards them. Here, let's look at that word here. Let's go to verse 10. You know, there was some things that took place.
I would say that it was systematic, because if they were so strong, then they couldn't have been enslaved like so easily.
Yeah.
They had to have some rules that probably made them economically enslaved.
Mm-hmm. They probably came up with some weird little taxes.
Sharecroppers. You had to, you couldn't own the land. You had to, pay a tribute or whatever. That was like something they couldn't really afford. I'm just saying. I'm not saying that's what happened, but it's like
It could be.
It's something that. How do they go from in those first verses of being so strong to now they're slaves?
Yeah, and I'm saying that I don't think it just was like I feel like when we look at this, it's a synopsis of things that happen, and we don't know what the individual steps was. I mean, we could look at our current situation where we are, and understand that we didn't get to where we are right now just because of a singular act, but a combination of acts over an extended period of time, conditioning and things. And so when you think about this idea of come let us act wisely towards them, right? It makes sense to me to think about the fact that, there probably was a period of time where they saw the growth of the people. They saw that they were healthy and were becoming strong and mighty and were growing and was increasing in every aspect of things that they were doing. And they probably was like, we got to do something for these people overtake us.
I mean, this is, literally the playbook right here. I mean, it's what happened. This is the story of America, literally. I mean, we fought in every war. We did everything to show after slavery that we were trying to just be a part of the country. We just wanted to be treated like, human beings.
Yeah.
And literally, they took this playbook and said, come, let us deal wisely.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they basically just, kept implementing laws and different Jim Crow things that were taking all of our things that we were trying to do, our education. They wouldn't even let us read. You know what I'm saying? So there was just so many different things that they did that literally just brought us to the place where we are now.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's not as if, these are not things that, people in this day and time just made up, right? But this is just kind of a repeat of what is, right? Let's go over to Psalms 83. Read 1 through 5 here.
It says, O Elohim, do not remain silent. Do not be speechless and do not be still, O El. For look, your enemies make an uproar, and those hating you have lifted up their head. They craftily plot against your people and conspire against your treasured ones. They have said, come, and let us wipe them out as a nation, and let the name of Israel be remembered no more. For they have conspired together with one heart. They have made a covenant against you.
Okay, so when we look over here in verse 3, where we look back in Shemot and Exodus, where it says, come, let us act wisely towards them, right? They just took some knowledge and they're doing some right application of a particular knowledge that they have. But this is a different way of saying the same thing, where they craftily plot against you, right? And so this word here is aram. Aram is to be or to make bare, right? Derived sense, the idea of smoothness, or cunning, right? Or crafty, right? Or subtle, or prudent. And so when we think about one that is, when we think one that is crafty is the devil, right? Let's go over to Genesis. I have some issues here with the situation again, but let's go over here to hold on 1 second here. Let's go over here to Genesis, Bereshit, chapter 3. What does it say right here, verse 1?
And the Nahash was more crafty than all the lives of the field, which Yahweh Elohim had made. And he said to the woman, is it true that Elohim has said, do not eat of every tree of the garden?
Yeah, so Nachash, the serpent, was more crafty. He was more Aram. This here, I think, is Arum, which is just a derivative of Aram. Let's see here. This word here is. Oh, I'm pushing it wrong. What's my scroll here? Yes, this here is Arum, which is the past participle of 61, 60, 91, which is Aram, right? The same thing. And so these were some devils in Egypt, right? where they just were using their cunning, subtleness. Subtleness is wicked. You know that? You want to sit up here and be subtle. You know, someone sit up there and subtly insult you. If somebody subtly insults you, it's kind of, it almost sounds nice until you really sit back and think about it.
It does.
If they're subtly insulting you, right? I can't think about anything because I don't really do things like that. But if something is done subtly, it's like it's under the radar. It's not overt, right? It's covert, right? And so if someone's doing things subtly against you, it's like it's not that they're doing it, but you don't even necessarily know that it's been done to you. They're sneakily doing it.
It's like somebody giving you an insult on your $20 shoes that your mama bought you. You know, and you don't know. Everybody's laughing. And they're like, yeah, man, I like your shoes, man.
Like your pro kids. What's up with that? That's evil, right? And so these people were craftily plotting against the people of the Most High. But it's a result of fear. It's a result of fear. They feared what the potential that existed with the people. They feared, and the fear brought about hate. Again, if we look back at if we look back at Psalms here, Psalms 83. Psalms 83 verse 2, which we just read here. These people that are doing this, craftily plotting against the people, these people are hating Israel. Let's look at 105. Let's look at 105. 105, 24 and 25.
And that says, and he increased his people greatly and made them stronger than their enemies. He turned their heart to hate his people, to conspire against his servants.
Okay. And this actually is the same thing that we see going on with Egypt. Because again, this is like a Joseph situation that's going on over here with Egypt has to get to a place over the nation of Israel so that the might of the Most High can be seen.
Or else it was because they were so mighty and powerful and fruitful that they was able to like free themselves from
Who?
Israel.
Oh.
I'm saying if they didn't get brought down, then it wouldn't be a miracle to be.
Yeah. If Israel, they grew so mighty and then they just took over, like they just beat up Egypt and just took their stuff, like just on the strength of what they became over the years.
But do you think the Most High was making Egypt do this, or was the Most High just showing Israel what any nation would naturally do?
I don't want to say making them do it, but I do want to say using the fact that they act like that for his purposes.
Right.
I'm not saying that he sat up there and made them
Gave them the idea.
do the things. The people was, of course, naturally wicked.
Yeah, I think they would have did it.
And so he uses this to show himself mighty.
Right.
And so when we look at these Egyptians, were able to easily see wickedness because they're looking at this people who, again, you would think that a people that's part of, they're kind of a nation within a nation. There are people within a nation that if I treated you right, I wouldn't be afraid of other people coming in and you siding with them if we was cool with each other.
I trust that you'd be on my side.
I would expect it. I would expect that. Unless I didn't treat you right. And so they came up with the scenario. Why? Because they couldn't have been dealing with them rightly. They couldn't have been. And so when you think about this word here, let's look at the word for hate. Let's see if it's here. Oh yeah, here we go. Hate, enemy, foe, odious. Right? And so if you think about this word here, sane, which is hate, you have the two front teeth, which bite. Right? The two front teeth, they bite. They bite down, so they create pressure. Right? Here, let me put this up here. Right? So you have a biting pressure. And right, the noon is the sprouted seed. And so that has the idea of continuity. Right? And so you have a continual biting pressure. And then the aleph is the ox's head, which is strength or strong. So you have a strong, continual biting pressure, right, against the people, right? And so when you think about this pressure that's continually biting, this feeling that's continually against a particular people, right? You have when that thing is being manifest, it looks like envy and jealousy. Like, why you always got something bad to say? Like, is you jealous? Like, you want to be me or something so bad that you always got, you can't just never have, you always got something bad to say, right? But all of this is the result of the fear that the people had towards Israel. This bitter disdain. But for what, though? They were just over there minding their business. Excelling. But if I am a type of person that if I see where I am, after all, and I know what it took for me to get whatever it is that I have, and then I look over at these other people, and then they are nowhere near the person that I am. So how in the world did they get that?
How'd they get Black Wall Street?
How did they get it? How are they able to multiply in that way? How can they be so strong and mighty? Who taught them to be that way? Where are they getting it from? I'm just jealous and envious of all of that. And the only thing that I would do if that's how I felt about it, was try to negate it.
Subjugate.
And try to, I see that them rising up, I want to bring them down.
put what you say, Africa? You called agents and send in agents to cause controversy, schisms, divisions, disinformation, all that stuff. It seriously leads to a weakening of their ability to come together and be like, you know what, we're not going to be slaves today. This don't work for us.
Yeah,
But
and
once
so
you put those different things, to once you start acting, craftily and wisely against them, then you can kind of tear them down from the inside out. Because, I don't really know how else they could have done if they were so mighty and strong. They literally could have just came together and been like, we're not going to be slaves today.
yeah.
So it couldn't have been overnight. They was like, you know what, y'all are going to be our slaves.
Yeah.
Because then there would have been a war.
It definitely had to be some type of accumulative situation. And, and as it says, it definitely was like some subtly done situation. Strategically done. All right, so let us go down to, let's see here. Okay, so we're thinking about the fact that the fear that Egypt had, it brought about hatred and envy and jealousy within them against Israel, against the people, right? Their fear equaled or manifested hate. Okay, and so, but if we go over to, hold on, let me just add this back in real quick. They're fighting with my computer.
A scared man is a dangerous man.
That's definitely true. And so let's go back to Exodus 1 and read again verse 12.
12 says, but the more they afflicted them, the more they increased and grew, and they were in dread of the children of Israel.
Okay, and so before verse 12, does it talk about 11? 11 is that they set masters over them to afflict them, and then 12, but the more that they afflicted them, they began to increase. Okay, and so we see that there was this thing that they began to do, this affliction, this down pression that they began to inflict on the people, and the fear that Egypt had towards Israel, and that fear that brought about hate. But if we go down, read 16 and 17 there.
16, 17, it says, and he said, when you deliver the Hebrew women and see them on the birth stools, if it is a son, then you shall put him to death. But if it is a daughter, then she shall live. But the midwives feared Elohim and did not do as the sovereign of Mitzrayim commanded them, and kept the male children alive.
So the midwives, they feared Elohim, though. And so when they had a fear towards Elohim, it brought about a love for the Most High and His will and His people. So they both had fear. Egypt had fear, and the midwives of the Hebrew midwives, they had fear. But one's fear brought about jealousy, envy, hatred. But the other fear had by the Hebrew midwives, that brought about love and commitment to the Most High. And it didn't matter what them people said that they was going to do. Right? They had to have done more than just say, okay, you're going to have to kill the people whenever they're born. There had to be some type of threats or something that was involved with the whole situation, where they wasn't just like, all right, this is what it's going to be, or but we don't know what the or is, right? But whatever it was, the Hebrew midwives, they didn't care, right? Because they had more of a allegiance towards the Most High and their people than they did for the sovereign and Egypt.
Man, if we had people like that today,
I mean, that's the issue, right? The people will fear the thing that they are able to see more over the things that they cannot see. They look at Egypt, they look at their rulers, their physical leaders, and these physical earthly laws, and fear those things. And they put forth the edicts to say, kill the men childs, kill the man childs, and they say, yes, master, I'll do it. And that's what they've done. That's what they've done. They've taken the male children, the women children, they just scattered status quo. Just it's cool. They could be born and live, but the male children, kill them, put them to death. And the society, the Egypt that we live in, the midwives say, yes, master, I'll do it. Because they don't fear Elohim. They fear Mitzrayim. The Hebrew midwives, what's it say about them? It says, read verse 19.
19 says, and the midwife said to Pharaoh, because the Hebrew women are not like the Mitzrayim women, for they are lively and give birth before the midwives come to them.
The Hebrew women, it says, are lively. They're vigorous, right? Having vigor and life, right? They have a respect and a knowledge of the Most High, who is life. If you're connected to life, you're going to live a way that is congruent with life. And so they wasn't about this whole thing that these people were sitting up here doing with this killing of the male child, the killing of the son. What verse is that? Verse 22, where it says, "Throw every son who is born into the river," it said. But the Hebrew women understood the significance of this tent house floor plan that continues. The son continues the house, right? He's the builder of the family name. He's the one that continues the house. And so if you destroy the continuation of the house, of course, there can be no more house, right? And that's what Pharaoh sought to do over here, to destroy the continuing of the house. But the Hebrew women said no. They said they tried to get out of it and say, well, it already said that they feared Elohim, right? But they got out of it by saying, they don't even need us. They just dropping them babies out, and they don't even need us to come and catch them, because that Ben done had them already. Right? So here, let's go over to the next chapter here. Talk about Moses a little bit. Moses. All right, so when we look over here, let's go down to. We look at the beginning verses over there. We see where they of course had this culture of we're not killing the babies, right? But this one in particular, right? They took them and they hid them in a little basket, and they coated it with insulating material, right? And they pushed it down in the water, and then his sister Moses who would be come to be known as Moses, his sister, stood by and watched him get picked up by a daughter of Pharaoh, right, who pulls him out of the water, right, and calls his name Moses, right? So when we get down, it's interesting. It's so interesting that we think about, verse 10, where we have this one who goes into the water and gets drawn out of the water and is called to be drawn out of water. Moshe, right? And when you look at the name Moshe, there is a saving type of a situation that's connected with the drawing out of water. So it's not just as if like I'm reaching in and just willy-nilly like picking somebody out of the water, but there's a saving type of a taking out of the water.
I think about, we was at Sukkot and one of the children fell into the lake, and it was like an urgency.
That person was like Moshe out of the water.
There was an urgency to get him out the water. He was drowning for it.
Yeah, because the person couldn't really swim, right? Which is different from somebody who just giving somebody a hand. I could get up by myself, but it'd be easier like if you like help me, like as opposed to somebody like I can't get out and then somebody's taking me out. And so when we think about this name that's given to Moshe, it's interesting that he is this one who was drawn out of the water, who was rescued out of the water, who was taken out of the water where he wasn't able to get his own self out of the water, who becomes this one who really is the instigator. He's called the deliverer of the people, who leads the people out of bondage. And so the very name that is placed on him is connected to his purpose in life. Where he leads the people as they're drawn out of the water when they go through the split sea and walk through on dry land.
I was going to say that what you said, what you said about Joseph, you said that in the portion where Joseph went down to Egypt, how he had to be brought down basically to death in order to be brought back up. You know, and so Moses, you know, he's the leader of he's the first, essentially the first king of, you know, Israel. You know, he's the leader of the people, the leader of the whole nation. He can't have this glorious beginning. He has to be brought down in order for the Most High. He gets brought down twice in this chapter, but you know, like he has to go through some things in order to actually be brought into his place.
Yeah. I feel like he kind of starts from down, though. It feels like he starts from down, Moses. Like he just was like he has a thing. He does have a thing in his heart. Moses does, but he's unrefined. Moses, he's just raw. He's definitely unrefined. We see that, you know, verse 11 here. We look at verse 11. Read verse 11 and 12.
And in those days it came to be, when Moshe was grown, that he went out to his brothers and looked at their burdens. And he saw a Mitzrayim striking a Hebrew, one of his brothers. So he turned this way and that way. And when he saw no one, he struck the Mitzrayim and hid him in the sand.
He had a heart for his people. Moses did. You know, but he definitely Malcolm X. You know what I'm saying? He's not Martin Luther King. He had a heart for his people, but he wasn't going to sit around and just have these people sit up here and beating on his people like that. He just wasn't going to. He wasn't going to turn.
He wasn't going to stand for that.
No, he didn't. So he said he looked over the one way.
Say he's more like a Nat Turner. You know what I'm saying? Malcolm, because Malcolm, you know, he ain't putting no hands on nobody.
No, but he talked about it though.
Yeah,
He definitely talked about
that
it.
business.
Yeah, Nat Turner, that was a whole other thing. He was about action.
Yeah.
Moses was about that action.
About that action.
He was ready to go from 0 to 100 just straight away.
Mm-hmm.
What? You want to go?
He looked over. He said,
Around the corner.
over there. You see the guy over there? Jugged him up. Right? Hit him in the sand.
Goodness.
And so, but you see that there's a nature, there's something in his character that causes him to feel the pain of his people, right? And he was ready to act, right? He wasn't just going to be like, man, that's messed up.
You just did that.
'Cause that's what people do. They look and they see what goes on, and then they just say, man, they just shake their heads.
Now they pull out their
You
phones.
pull up the phone.
Yeah, and take a picture of it.
Oh, that's crazy.
Record it.
Like, I don't care how disgruntled you are. If all you're doing is, if all you could do is this right here, you're not disgruntled at all. You couldn't care less. If the only action that these things cause you to do is to, you know, videotape it, you might as well join in. Moses said, nah, you're not doing that. Matter of fact, you're not doing it now. You're not doing it ever again.
You know you're going to have an opportunity. You're going to have an opportunity to do it.
And so there's action there, right? And so it's interesting when you look at again Moses, who, you know, you bring up the idea of him, coming down low and reaching the top, the heights. It's interesting that when we look at Moses and see that the Most High, beginning with him even being called drawn from water, to seeing that he has this thing inside of him where he has a heart and a love for his people, and he wants to be there for his people, right or wrong. He wants to do for his people, by any means necessary, right? And so we look, when you keep on going, here, read the rest of that. Read 13 down through 15.
And he went out on the second day and saw 2 Hebrew men fighting. And he said to the one who did the wrong, "Why did you strike your neighbor?" And he said, "Who made you a head and a judge over us?"
He probably was getting ready to do it again, probably.
"Do you intend to kill me as you killed the Mizraim?" And Moshe feared.
He probably had the knife out, man.
And Moshe feared and said, "Truly the matter is known." And Pharaoh heard of this matter, and he sought to kill Moshe. But Moshe fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian. And he sat down by the well.
Okay, and so again, we see that it's interesting that these kind of turns, these events take place with Moses and his desire to kind of help his people. But it's interesting what these people sit up here and say, and ask, "Who made you head and judge over us?"
That's Israel for you. That's Israel.
That is. That's it. You judging me? You judging me?
And then they put the business out there. The man that he done saved, done told everybody what Moses did.
Crazy.
Israel be snitching.
But it's interesting that in them saying that, not understanding that this very person is in fact going to be head and judge over them.
Yeah. The irony.
Isn't it ironic? But again, it's interesting to be able to see the Most High's will being done here, where we see where he's able to take this Moses and cultivate this character that has he has the raw kind of desire and will, but he needs some cultivation, right, to get him to the place where he should be. And so he goes and he becomes a fugitive. He goes on the run, right, and he goes and meets up with his future boo in Midian. So I wanted to just kind of go ahead.
When I was going downstairs, I just wonder if whenever did he do something to the guy to make him think that he could potentially kill him, like he killed the other person? Like, did he
probably just had that look in his eye.
Nah, they was because these were both Israelites, right? That were fighting
two
amongst
Israelites,
each other.
right.
It was-
He's trying to
Nah,
make
they
peace
was-
between them.
Nah,
They knew,
They
like-
was just blowing the spot up.
When he looked around, he wasn't looking to see if other Hebrews was seeing him. He was looking probably for the
Yeah, he was
authorities.
looking for the
He looking
people.
for the police.
Yeah.
He don't care if somebody, one of the people seen him. He's looking for the police.
And they're looking at him like he's an Egyptian. So
Yeah.
they're not looking at him like he's one of them.
And so he see these people. I mean, it was obviously known what had happened. Either people seen it or the person who he was saving went and told somebody.
That man told.
You
That
like,
man
you know
told.
what?
That
Like,
man told.
'cause he
Moses
said
looked
it.
around. He said he didn't see nobody. So
Yeah.
either when he looked around, he was looking for the police, or the person who he actually saved, who would have been the only other witness, went and told somebody.
He told.
Oh man, this
He told.
Egyptian Moshe. Oh goodness.
And they got all the way back to the Pharaoh.
Crazy. People been snitching since day one.
Since day one. Day one.
And all he want to do is just help these people
Trying
out.
to help them and they sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
But that's how it be though.
Yeah.
You help somebody out. Like there was the guy at Target that helped a woman out from getting
Man.
I think it was grape. You know what I mean? Or something. She
The crazy person was stabbing people in
What?
his Target in the line. Yeah.
and then Target going sue
that-
this man.
Sue the guy that saved.
He
the
was a
person.
hero.
Yeah.
Instead of calling him a hero.
I don't mess with the Target. How they gonna bring charges up on a hero?
Right.
He's saving somebody.
That's how they do.
They said that he endangered other people, I think, or something like that. Even though he saved the one person, he still endangered like other people. That was their logic. I
Man,
felt like
they
they
logic
should just
is
let
funny,
that
man.
go and be like nobody else got injured, so okay.
They logic is real funny.
Black man can't even be a hero.
Crazy.
There we go.
Crazy.
Oh my goodness.
All right, I wanted to look at this real quick before we are finished over here, because it's something interesting that we see when we look at verse 18. Read for us verse 18 right there.
And they came to Reuel, their father, and he said, "How is it that you have come so soon today?"
Okay, very good. So, the father of... Okay, so let's just keep on. Read some more of this just so we can see some more of it.
And they said, "A Mitzrayim rescued us from the hand of the shepherds, and he also drew enough water for us and watered the flock." And he said to his daughters, "And where is he?"
Okay, so he said who to his daughters is this person, Reuel. He said to his daughters, where is he?
"Why did you leave the man? Call him and let him eat bread." And Moshe agreed to dwell with the man, and he gave Zipporah his daughter to Moshe.
Okay, the man, he is this person over here, Reuel. Right? And then even the scriptures saying that his title was Yithro, which means excellency. And so there's a little bit of a discrepancy here. It's interesting when you look at this, because who is Reuel? Is it Yithro? Is it Yithro's father? Is Yithro a title for Reuel? Is Reuel a title for Yithro? Let's look at a couple of things here. Let's look at what's it say in Numbers? Numbers 10 and 29.
And Moshe said to Hobab, the son of Reuel, the Midianite, Moshe's father-in-law, "We are setting out for the place of which Yahweh said, 'I give it to you.' Come with us, and we shall do good to you, for Yahweh has spoken concerning Israel."
Hold on. Moshe said to Hobab, the son of Reuel, the Midianite, Moshe's father-in-law. So Hobab is the son of Reuel, but I thought Yethro was the father-in-law.
This is confusing.
This is saying Hobab, son of Reuel, the Midianite, Moshe's father-in-law. So do we got 3 names? When you look at Reuel, if you say that Reuel is Yethro's father, you could say, well, people lived in the house of their father. And so maybe Yethro lived in the house of Reuel, and then shortly after we meet, Yethro and Reuel and all them, then Reuel dies, and there's only Yethro there. But there's a word. Is the word for daughter the same as the word for granddaughter? It should be different words, right? And so, Zipporah was the daughter of the person who they're saying is, part of the, the conversation and things that's going on over here in Exodus. So I think that over here, the scriptures, they tried to fix this situation by saying that they're connecting them and saying that one is a title and not necessarily a name. But I think Numbers 10 and 28 makes that an impossibility. And so when you look at
They shouldn't have tried to do that.
who? Oh, the scriptures?
Scriptures version.
Well, they weren't by themselves in doing it, because when you look at some of the other situations, some of the other commentaries, a lot of them try to make sense of it, where it's one of those things where you're maybe not able to.
You just need to accept the situation for what it is, or else you
the situation being you don't know.
You just don't know.
That's the situation. Except the fact that you don't know, because Reuel can't be the father of Yethro, because it says daughter and there's a granddaughter word. And then later, Reuel is in Numbers is said to is the Helbab, the son of Reuel, and it's talking about the son who is the father-in-law. Grandfather-in-law, I'm sure, is his own thing.
I mean, even if you say grandfather, Saba.
Yeah. And so I just thought that was kind of an interesting kind of a thing when we think about this Reuel, because we will see the scriptures talking about Yethro, who becomes really a mentor, a confidant, right? Somebody who helps I like to think that Yethro is involved in the cultivation of Moses. Moses goes away. He's a rebel. He's wild.
You just kill people.
He just be killing people. But when he comes back,
He'll get raised.
when he comes back, besides the fact that he meets with the Most High, but his heart, he's got to be right to get there.
Yeah.
And I like to think that Yethro has something to do with that.
I'm not disputing that.
Go ahead.
But it seemed as if Moses' heart always was kind of right. He was always stepping up for people who needed help, and people who was trying to do wrong. He was always willing to fight or kill.
Yes, and when we look at Moses, Moses is the thing with Moses that keeps him from going into the land was the fire that was inside of him. And
the
so
thing that had to get suppressed.
Yes, and I think that for the most part he's able to do that. But a little bit of that remained, and it just came out at the wrong place. But
and it was righteous indignation too.
it was. I
like
mean,
it
yeah. I just want to say that
They get on my nerves.
when we have these relationships with people, we learn from, whether it be positively or negatively, from the relationships that we have in life. And so when we see later when Yethro adds to the Torah is given by the Most High. And we have a law in the Torah that's literally given by Yethro. That the Most High says is okay. I'm saying that Yethro, in his wisdom, must have helped Moshe along the way, because he definitely needed some cultivation in his situation, right? But here we see, if we go all the way down to the last verse over here. Lastly, I just wanted to say that when we look at verse 24, we see that all of these things that go on with the people, and the groanings that goes on with the people, and the condition that the people were in, it reached to kind of a crescendo where it talks about the fact that they cried, and their cries went up to Elohim because of the things that they were going through. And Elohim looked at them, and he knew. It says, and Elohim knew. He knew the situation. He agreed with the situation, and he was ready now to act. And so when we think about, looking at, getting ready to move forward with the narrative, we see that, the Most High, he moves inside of his will.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to be able to, first of all, be patient enough to allow for the Most High's will to be done. And not only that, but to know that we we have to kind of be able to align ourselves with the will of the Most High. And so when we do that, when we, ask like Yeshua says for us to say, not my will, but thy will, when we allow for the Most High's will to be done, it's not always in the timing that we would hope for, but understanding that he is the Elohim of the heavens above and the earth below, and when his time is time, that's the time that it's supposed to be, right? And so the people got to the place of groaning and crying unto the Most High, and the Most High hears them. And we simply see there in verse 25 where it says Elohim knew, right? And so it'll be interesting to be able to look further and see not only the way that the Most High responds to this, but watching the way that the people respond to the response. All right, so that being said, for now, I guess we'll go ahead and be done with here this second chapter here, and y'all willing, we will be back on next Shabbat to deal with the continuation of the book of Shemot. All right, so that being said, we'll say for now, Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom.
All right, y'all willing, next week we shall.